Hello, welcome to Tabletop CP, and in today's video we're going to be doing a couple of things. One is going to be looking at my fully completed Pioneer platoon, which I built from the new Warlord Games Veteran German Infantry box set. We'll do that at the end, take a closer look at them. And the other thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to paint these guys, or how I painted them. We're going to be using this LMG team here as our example, and the standard we are going for is what I call high tabletop standard. Basically means I just add an extra layer of highlights onto it. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at how I did this.
Alright, so here we are at my little painting desk here in the Nerd Cave, and I have not done a painting tutorial in years, so bear with me. It's been a while. I got all new setup, so it's gonna be a little bit of a learning curve for me. So these are all the paints I'm going to be using. Tons. I know it looks like a lot, and it is a lot, but a lot of them are for very small parts. If you wanted to simplify it and just use the base colors on the big parts, you could do that. But again, high tabletop standards, so I'm picking stuff out, I should say, a little bit more, and just adding more colors to make it look a little bit better. So don't be intimidated by the giant pile of paints. You don't need to use all of these if you do not want to. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, first up I will be using a wet palette. If you don't know what a wet palette is, it's simply a way to keep your paint moist. Super easy to make. This is a meal prep container I had. Put a paper towel on the bottom, soak it with water, get some parchment paper, lay it on top. The idea being that the parchment paper allows the water to permeate up through, keeping the paint moist, but it does not allow the paint to permeate down into the paper towel. You can go ahead and just put the lid on it when you're done, come back the next day, take it off, and pick up where you left off. So first of all, what we're going to do is block in the colors, I call it. So I'm going to go through and paint all the different colors on the model, and then after that we'll get to the wash part, but first the blocking. So I am going to use German camo field gray from Vallejo as the uniform color for the Germans. So there's a famous photo floating around of all the various shades of Feldgrau that you can possibly imagine. Kind of the point of the picture is to show that there is no real wrong color to use for German uniform color. That being said, I just used the field gray World War II color from Vallejo. And then I will just go through and paint the uniform. You don't have to be super careful not to get the base color on anything else, because we're going to be going over it. Another little tip I would give is to start with the lower parts first. So the uniform is the lowest part of the model, and then you got all the webbing on top of that. So start with the lowest stuff, the uniform, next up the belts, and then stuff that's attached to the belts, and all the way up to the helmet. This way you're working from the bottom up, and if you happen to get a little bit of the color you were using onto the next layer up, it's not a big deal, because you can just go over it again. So we'll go ahead and finish painting the uniform. Alright, so we're done with the uniform color, the Feldgrau. Next we're going to do is the webbing. So German webbing was generally black. I don't use straight black. I use this black gray color. It's a very dark gray, and when you put the wash on it, it gets even darker. And when we go back, we can actually highlight it with this. So we'll just go ahead and do the boots, the belts, the straps on the ammo pack, and the Zelta-band, and the ammo pouches up here. And I think that's about it. That we'll use black for. Alright, so I finished the black now. The boots, the webbing, I also do the goggles on black. So yeah, boots, goggles, webbing, belts, straps, stuff like that I do in black. So next up we will do the bread bag. So bread bag is where we're going to have, you can add a little variation to the Germans. I'm using two colors for the bread bag. I'm using green gray, Vallejo green gray, and I also use khaki, just to add some variation to the guys. So I'll do one in khaki, one in green gray. Green gray is also what I use for the chin straps on the helmets, as well as any slings. Those will be green-gray as well. Alright, bread bags complete, rifle slings, chin straps. Next I'm going to do the painted metal. So for early war Germans, painted metal, and most of the painted metal throughout the war, I'll use this German camo dark green. So you can use that on ammo cans too. If you're trying to stay all early war, you don't want to start using the Dunkelgelb, which I'm going to use for the ammo can in a minute. You want to stay away from any kind of dark yellow Dunkelgelb. Just stick all with the German camo dark green if you're trying to stay earlier in the war. I do like to mix in some Dunkelgelb on on this kit, because that can tie them in with my later war stuff if I choose to use these guys for late war, which they are designed to do, for me at least, is they're going to be interchangeable between mid, early, and late war Germans. So I will paint the helmet. Any helmet that doesn't have a cover like this one, I will paint the Canteen cover, and this kit here, I think there's like a mess kit or something. And then if these guys don't happen to have it, but there is a gas mask canister. It's a round thing that would also be the German green painted metal. So I'll go ahead and paint all the green, or the painted metal parts now. Alright, so that's done, the green part, or the painted metal dark green stuff. Next up I'm going to do the Dunkelgelb. So Dunkelgelb is German for dark yellow. It's what they paint a lot of their late war vehicles in. I don't know exactly the year they started using it. I'm thinking mid-war probably. I use this German camo orange ochre. This is just what I've been using for years. You can use any kind of Dunkelgelb color, just dark yellow. I like this one because it's a little brighter, and brightness is important on minis, because when they're, tabletop level, you're looking down from 3 feet up, it helps actually be able to see these little individual bits like these ammo cans and stuff. So on this particular model, this ammo can is going to be Dunkelgelb, and then he's got a grenade up here. So again, if you want to stay early war, use that German camo dark green on all these other types of things as well. So I'll just do the Dunkelgelb real quick. Alright, so Dunkelgelb is done. Sorry for the lighting. I'm kind of, as I mentioned, this is kind of a impromptu setup here. I don't have it all dialed in yet. Dunkelgelb's done. So next up we're going to do, let's do the helmet cover and the Zelteband. So again, this is more mid-war, possibly late war stuff. I'm using these to tie them into my later war stuff. So they're going to have a Zelteband, or a splinter, I believe it's splinter camo pattern on the helmet and on this roll here, which will be one of those shelter half Zelteband quarters. So the base color I use for those is German camo beige. I found this works really well. I'm also going to paint the MG34 toolkit in this as well. I usually do it black, but I want a little bit more contrast, so I'm going to just do this particular one in German camo beige. Alright, so there we go. German camo beige base for the camo, and then German camo for the German camo beige for the random pouch. Just looking at this guy here, if you're going to do MP40 pouches, I use that same German camo beige for those. I've seen pictures of them that color, and it just adds a little bit of contrast, so it's just not everything's black. I think it looks nice, and you just put little black stripes where the little latch thing is going to be on it. So that's a good thing to use for MP40 pouches. Alright, so moving on here. Let's see, what do we got left? We got to do the weapons, the ammo belt, and the camo. Oh, and the canteens. Let's do the canteens real quick. So for the canteen body, so you can see there where, maybe you can see if I can focus. There's a little, the actual canteen part, that's not the canteen cup, which is the green, is going to be painted in German camo pale brown. Alright, next we are going to do the weapons, the wood. So the rifle, I believe the butt stock on the MG34 I think was wood, so we'll paint that wood as well. The handle, any tiny bit of the handle of that sticker nade, we'll paint wood. Sometimes if they have shovels, so if you use the shovel on here, you could paint that the same wood. So all wood color is going to be pretty much the same. And that color is going to be, we're going to be using mahogany brown. That's just what I've used that since day one of painting minis. I still might be on the same, the original mahogany brown bottle that I had from the back then too. So this stuff lasts a long time, unless you do like I did with this Dunkelgelb and put too much out. But anyway, so we'll paint all that stuff with the mahogany brown. Alright, wood part's done. Next I'm going to paint the weapons themselves. So the machine gun, the metal bits on the rifle, the barrel, the bolt, the sights, the little adjuster straps on the sling. Those are just going to be, I'm just going to use flat black for that. All right, sorry about that. I didn't have my mic on. What I was saying is I'm doing the camo. I'm using flat brown and olive green as my two camo colors on top of the German camo beige. And I use big chunky blocks. That way when you're looking at it from tabletop distance, you can actually see what it is. If you get too intricate with the camo pattern, it just disappears when you look at it from 3 feet away. So big chunky blocks. I did the brown already, and now I will do the green. And with this German camo, it's fairly blocky looking. There aren't a lot of curved edges in it. It's mostly straight edges, and they tend to be right next to each other as well. So I'll put a brown and a green touching each other, and then I will leave a lot of the German camo beige showing as well. So you can see how blocky that looks. Maybe if it's not too blurry. That's how I'm going to leave it. And when you see it from high up, it looks pretty good. You can tell that it is definitely a camo pattern. So just do that like that. Maybe we'll put a little bit more on here. There. And that is it for the camo. So the last thing I'm going to do is the ammo belt. So that's super simple. I'm going to use a bright shining silver on the tips where the actual bullet is. And then for the case, the bullet case, I'm going to use this bright gold. All right, and I think that's it for blocking in. Everything's painted. So at this point, technically you could just leave it like this and go with it. But we're not going to do that. We're going to do the magic layer here in a second. And it might not be perfect. Like there's some Dunkelgelb on the shoulder there. Little things like that, don't worry about it right now because we're going to go back over this again after the wash dries. And the wash is what I call the magic step, because this is where all the talent in a bottle part comes in. That's what they say, but basically it adds shadow. So this stuff, I'm using Agrax Earthshade. It's a dark brown wash, and I'm going to cover the entire model with this stuff with a bigger brush. You don't want to go on too heavy. You want to go on fairly light and then let it completely dry. So what it'll do is it'll get down in all those crevices, all those folds on the trousers, on the tunic, in between all those bullets, everywhere. It's just going to go in there, it's going to dry, and it's going to leave a shadow. And when that's done, we're going to go back over it with the base color and then a highlight. So it'll add instant shadow to this model, giving it depth and making it look 100 times better. So again, you could game with it like this, no problem. Just paint the skin and move on. But with a couple more steps, we can make it look a lot better. So what I'll do now is I'll get my Agrax, I'll shake it up really good. I usually get a toothpick and go in and stir it up too. I don't know what it is, but the most recent couple bottles of this stuff I bought, when I did my normal thing where I just shake it and put it on, it left them very shiny. So I don't know what they did differently. But a lot of the pigment, I learned, settles in the bottom. So you get a toothpick, you stir it up real good, then you shake it, you put it on, it's fine. If you don't do that, at least with the last couple of bottles of Agrax I've used, it leaves everything very shiny and it's just kind of weird. So just shake it up, stir it up, and then put it on the model with a big brush and let it completely dry. Alright, so now the wash has dried. It looks like this. Sorry, you can't see it very well. I have a very crude setup for painting tutorials at the moment. But all the folds have shadow. There's shadow in between everything else. And it's just going to give some depth to the model overall. So again, you could leave it like this, play with it. It'd be totally fine. It might be a little dark on the table, but you could totally get away with it. But we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to now do the next layer. So to start making it look brighter and pop, we're going to take all the same exact colors that we've already used, and we're going to go over everything again. So we have to be very precise in this step. Is you want to avoid putting any paint into any of these little crevices or anywhere there's shadow. So this part does take a little bit more time. So this is the first step to get it to tabletop level. So okay, we're done with the first highlight layer, which is just the base color over again, leaving the shadows in the creases. So it looks like that now. And again, you could paint the faces, do the base, and just roll on with this. And I do that with some of my armies if I just want to get them done quickly. But I want to spend a little bit more time on these guys, so I want to do yet another layer on top of this to make them even brighter and pop even a little bit more. So how I do that is I take some of this stone gray. This is just the color I picked. You can do any sort of off-white, similar to this type color. And I'm going to add a little bit to each of the colors that I've used. And then I'm going to go over it again. And this time I'm just going to hit the sharp edges. I'm going to hit the top of the folds on the clothes. And just a thin or a skinny layer on the sharp edges, the folds, just to make it look, give it a little bit more depth. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Alright, so we've completed the third layer with the lightened up base colors. And that is pretty much it for the uniform for these guys. That's what they look like now. You can see they're pretty bright, at least under this light. They look pretty good. So I'm happy with them to the standard of the rest of them. Next up is the faces. So faces are something I've struggled with my entire career as a miniature painter. I hate doing faces. I hate doing eyes. I've never found a good technique. I'm trying something different now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this flat flesh. So I'll just go over it sort of like I did, block in the skin with this. And then I'm going to, and then I'm going to get white and paint in the eyes. And then I will get a very fine brush and use black to do the pupils. And then I will go back over it with this to clean up the eyes. So if the one's too high, one's too low, one's too big, I'll try to shape them in again with this color. And then what I'm going to try to do is very carefully, I'm going to use this contrast German Flesh. So this is a skin contrast paint. And I'm going to cover it just like I did with the Agrax, but I'm going to keep the eyes white. I'm going to be careful around the eyes. And then when that's dry, I'm going to do like I did with the uniform. I'm going to take the base color and go over it, trying to leave that German Flesh in the creases of the face or the hands, wherever. And then to lighten this up, similar to what I did with that stone gray on these colors, I'm going to add a little bit of this Panzer Ace highlight flesh. And with that, I'll just hit the nose, the chin, the knuckles, high points on the face and the hands. So, wish me luck. Alright, so I struggled through the faces. I think I got them done. See if I can focus on them at all. But that's about as good as it's going to get. Tabletop distance looks fine. I really struggle with the faces, but this method, I think, of all the ones I've done, I think is going to turn out the best once I get a little bit more practice with it. So the minis are basically done. Before I move on, I should mention that I did use this metallic black color, and did a light brush, dry brush over some of the metal parts to make them, give it a little shine, to highlight the black of the weapon. So the last part on this that needs to be painted, well, I take that back. I do need to paint some white stripes on the collars. There aren't a lot of collars exposed, maybe this guy's left collar here, but I just use a brush, a tiny brush, and paint 2 small white stripes on the collar. Okay, so now I need to do the lenses of these goggles, and that's very simple. I use a kind of a darker blue, just dab them on there, and then I'll use this sky blue color to just fill in about half of it, which will give it that glass look. So I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's very simple. You could add a little dab of a really small white dot on the far end next to this lighter blue to give it a little bit more depth, even if you want. But it's such a small area, those little lenses on those goggles, I'm just going to leave it like that. Alright, so we're done painting the minis. Next up, we got to do the base. So for the base, I just went to the craft store, got some cheap brown. I'm just going to cover the base with this brown color, the dark brown. Once that's dry, I'm going to get a brush and dry brush over the top of that with this tan earth, just to add some depth to it. If you don't know what a dry brush is, you just get a bigger brush like this, and you put it in the paint, wipe off most of the paint, and then just lightly go over the top of it. This is sand that's glued to it, so it's got texture, so it'll just pick up on the top parts of that texture. Once that's done, I'm going to get some white glue and just dab it around on the base. I've been using this color for my base, this static grass. Give it a fall look, fall early winter look. And then finally I will grab some tweezers, pull off one of these tufts, which is also similar theme to the dark or the brown grass color, and I'll just add a couple of these tufts. I will use, and the very last step is paint the edge of the base, and for this army I've been using this German camo pale brown. So I'll go ahead and get that knocked out.
Alright, so here he is, all done. The last of the 6 sprues that Warlord sent me of the new German Veteran Infantry set that are coming out with. And he will now join the rest of his boys. This will be my second LMG team. And there he goes. And here they are, all 6 sprues built. This is built as a Pioneer platoon. Mostly SMGs in here. I didn't count them all, but I got a ton of SMGs. I have one LMG, or MMG I should say. So this is going to be used for a heavy weapons platoon, just to add to my other existing MMGs. And the Pioneer platoon itself is going to have a lot of options. So we have the 2 LMGs. I also built one using the over-the-shoulder bipod holder guy. So here he is. So we got 2 LMGs. We also have 2 flamethrowers. So there's the first one. And then our second flamethrower with the Dunkelgelb tank, just to add a little bit of variety and let them tie in a little bit with later war German forces. I have also taken 2 Panzerfaust from the Grenadier kit and made 2 Panzerfaust options for these guys as well, because you can run Panzerfaust in the Assault Pioneer and the late war Pioneer squad. So we got 2 of those. I built one of those GRB 39, I think it's called. It is a AT rifle, but it also has the option to fire a grenade, which is a 1-inch template, the 24-inch range, so direct fire, 24-inch range, 1-inch template for 30 points. I think that could actually be pretty good. So I built one of those. 2 guys on a 60 mil base because I wanted to use these walls. So this one I pretty much just copied the example Warlord had on their website. Same with this machine gun. What else we got here? Oh, a lieutenant. So I have the platoon commander for the Pioneer platoon here. SMGs, of course. And I can run him with up to 3 other guys. So I could have a 5-man platoon command team, which is pretty awesome, really. It's like its own little squad at that point. Plus all the bonuses he gives. And let's see, what else we got here? Oh, my captain. So I went above and beyond. So I've been doing the 2-man bases for years, and I thought, what the hell? I had a few guys left, and I run captains in almost all my lists. So I built a 3-man captain base. This guy will be usable in all of my German armies. So my Blitzkrieg Germans, mid-war, late war, I can use them for a bunch of different stuff. Yeah, so super cool. I love the captain. He'll be very useful. What else I got here? Another just individual AT rifle, just in case one of these guys get killed. I'll be able to put him out. This base is pretty big, so it's kind of pushing the limits of practicality as far as gaming goes for 2 guys. And then just a bunch of SMGs. I do have some demo charges in here as well. Here's one. So demo charge, it's another rule. It's a, I forgot how many points it is, but basically this guy runs up, places it, and then the next turn they have to move 3 inches away at least, and then it goes off as a 3-inch template. If it's against a building, it follows the building rules for templates, which would be a couple 2 or 3 d6 for that. Hits anyone inside that building. So I can see that being useful. Got another AT grenade here. Tried to use all the options from the box that I could. So this could be used as a demo charge as well, or it could be used to represent a squad that has AT grenades. And then the rest of the guys are just all a bunch of SMGs. I got a couple pointy arm leaders in here. And then just a bunch of just random guys with SMGs, all SMGs. The only people that have something different than SMGs are the assistants to all the various weapons teams. They're going to all be armed with rifles, just because no point in paying points for an SMG when they're not going to be shooting it. So that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's the Grenadier, sorry, Veteran German, yeah, whatever the hell, you know what I'm saying. German Veteran Infantry. I'm sorry, it's kind of hard to say, but it's super awesome kit. I love it. If you guys are on the fence about getting this, I would definitely get it. They are definitely mid-war look. Stalingrad. I mean, these guys would be ideal for any kind of Stalingrad army, but they're dressed in a way that they could be used anywhere in the war, and that's how I'm going to use them, as my dedicated pioneer platoon for bolt action. And I think they're going to serve really well in that role. So I look forward to getting these guys on the table soon. And just thanks to Warlord for sending me these. And hope you guys like these, and I hope you get some for yourself. Let me know how you like them, and we'll see you guys on the table soon.